Hello, I'm Dr. Sam Hancock of the Emerald Planet and Emerald Planet TV. We come to you on a week-to-week basis from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technology, services, and products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we have a planet of 9 billion people by 2038 and possibly 12 to 13 billion by the end of this century, how are we going to be able to take care of all these people on planet Earth? And that's what Emerald Planet's all about. We come to you looking at the solutions, the best practices from around the globe as we create the Emerald Planet. Hello, welcome to the Emerald Planet. We're making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And seeing the long-term impacts of climate change. We're glad to have you. Thank you for being with us.
Looking at the continent of Africa, 54 nations, over 1 billion people, it fits together almost hand in glove as far as natural resources are concerned. But among these diverse countries, many dynamic things are happening through the African Titans and being featured as women that are actually on the move, just like Africa as a continent is on the move. And we have Awamary Khan. She is the founder of Innovate Gambia and the Womanboss. And we're going to be talking about technology and why it's so important, but also leadership and the other various skills that is needed. So, Awamary, welcome to the Emerald Planet TV.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here today. Thank you.
Now, briefly, let's just go over your two organizations. This is Innovate Gambia and the Womanboss. And then we're going to show some maps of Africa so that people know where you are and where you're set up, and then why that's important. But tell us a little bit about the Innovate Gambia and the Womanboss.
Sure. So Innovate Gambia, I'll just give you like a little bit brief history before that. I used to serve on different boards in North Carolina. I grew up in North Carolina as well, Raleigh, North Carolina, and served on different boards. And one of them was actually Innovate Raleigh. And Innovate Raleigh, was really galvanizing the community in Raleigh, North Carolina, and creating resources for the tech community in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And that sparked an idea for me to say, you know what, how can I change the Innovate Raleigh to become Innovate Gambia and help revitalize our country in the Gambia? And that's how Innovate Gambia started. Mm-hmm. And so Innovate Gambia is actually 4 different initiatives focused on revitalizing and boosting economic development in the Gambia.
That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Sure. And the Womanboss?
And then one of the initiatives actually is the Womanboss under Innovate Gambia. And the Womanboss is pretty much a creative space for women only, for women and girls. We focus on innovation, entrepreneurship, and leadership for women and girls, where it's a community, a creative space, again, a community to bring women together to create sisterhood. And that's pretty much our main objective for the Womanboss.
And you've been brought to us through YPAC, and we want to acknowledge that. And Kimberly Fogg, who's helped set that up. But looking at the African continent, what is so special about Africa as we're now moving through the 21st century? Of course, we're in the decade of the 2020s, but there's something different and special and dynamic that's going on across the whole continent.
Sure. I think right now, if you look at any data that you can check on the continent or where resources are available right now, you'll see that Africa is obviously full of natural resources. The thing is, with Africa right now, it's so ripe. They've been really far behind when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to data, when it comes to technology. So right now is really time. That's pretty much the saying around the continent as you travel around the continent of Africa is the same thing you hear and over. It's Africa's time is now. And what better way to go in and try to invest to look at the entire continent and try to invest the little that you can.
Now, looking at the Gambia, it's a very long, thin country, almost going into the heart of Africa. Why does that matter? And what do you see that as a base for you to not only deal with the women in the Gambia, but also to be able to spread your message to many other areas across the continent?
Sure. So the Gambia right now, for me personally, obviously, Gambia is very important to me. I grew up in the Gambia, West Africa. My father is Gambian, so obviously, the Gambia is actually the smallest country in Africa, in the continent of Africa. And if you look at the natural resources that it has, the beauty, and the people of Africa, and the people of the Gambia, I'm sorry, you just can't help but obviously to invest. To me, it had such a wonderful meaning. And I had to be intentional about going back and giving back to my community. And it started for me as what I saw growing up. It was the women that I saw growing up, carrying baskets of oysters, selling them, carrying tomatoes and lettuce and so on. And so, it's always been said that, you have certain visuals that carry you for the rest of your life. And that became one of them. That, as a child, I saw all these women and how it impacted me, that one day I would go back to actually help these women in terms of, boosting them to help create greater economic opportunities for them.
Now, looking at the Woman Boss and Innovate Gambia, we're seeing the women and girls in leadership. Why is teaching leadership skills so important for all ages? Because we're seeing all ages right in front of us.
Exactly. It's actually very, very important. So when I started the Women and Girls in Leadership, I was actually still in North Carolina at that time. It was 3 years ago when I first started the Women and Girls in Leadership series. And for me, I actually started thinking about how can I give back with some of these young girls? Because what happened in North Carolina and how it started is we had a lot of, obviously, African community, African descent and African communities there. And I wanted to impact them in some kind of way, especially the young girls, because I saw that a lot of them could relate to me, but it could not relate to their parents because their parents were not educated. Even though they were given the opportunity to come to the United States, they had to sacrifice a lot to give to their children, so they could not have those resources to go to school. So I was very fortunate, obviously, to have that. And I thought, this is a good way to bring in these young girls. And at that time, I was thinking 18-year-olds or 15-year-olds into 18. And then my daughters came in and said, "Mommy, how can I be involved?" And at that time, she was 8 years old. And I'm thinking, what is an 8-year-old going to think about that? But then I said, okay, you know what? Let's do that. We're going to call it Mommies and Daughters Brunch. And, we brought in, that's why you see different ages, we do from ages 8 to 18 and then 18 and above. And it's just so surprising what you can do when you have these young girls and how much they actually inspire you more than, the other way around, and how assertive they are. Some of these young girls are very assertive. And so we took that same concept to now the Gambia, and we've done 2 years now. And we've been very fortunate because overall, for the past 2 years, cumulative, we've gotten more than 400 people attend these leadership series. And the response has been great, amazing.
Now, looking at the Woman Boss, why that name?
So the Woman Boss. So at first, I have this mentor, a great mentor that I have to give props. His name is Willis Stewart, and he's in North Carolina. And we were mapping out, ideas of what my next step would be. What is next for Awamary? At that time, I was working as an executive at our loan fund in North Carolina, and what is next for me? And so I started thinking about things that I could do, especially to help women. I was just very passionate about helping women. And so I kept thinking about, different names I could come up with. And I would say at first, my first initial was the lady boss and the lady boss and the lady boss. And I was, because it's so powerful to see a woman that's running things. Boss is associated mainly with men, but this was a really good way to actually say, okay, you're not only a lady, you're not only a girl, now the woman. So there's a lot of things were happening at that time. The girl boss, it's really big actually in the US and all over the world. And so I said, you know what, I think the woman sounds better and more powerful. And so we actually went with the woman boss.
That's absolutely fantastic. And this is one of your facilities that you're providing and
Correct.
allowing the women to actually to set up their own businesses and being involved. But education, you mentioned that earlier and the importance of education. Why is it so important to have this type of very practical, hands-on entrepreneur types of education beyond the classical education that is being offered in the Gambia?
Absolutely, very, very important. I mean, as you look at it, education, it never ends as your 4-year degree or your master's degree. You constantly have to figure out a way to keep yourself educated and innovative. And so for the women entrepreneurs that really smart women entrepreneurs that are around the room that come in, majority know that I have a vision, I want to do this business, but then they cannot think further than that. It's how can I push through? So if you're looking through, how do I create a budget, for example? What does that look like? How can I evaluate my business, and say my business is worth X, Y, and Z? And those are the type of skills that we're trying to teach them so that they can further look into their business as a whole. And if you want investments later on in the future, you can actually have those dialogues with potential investors, etc. And so we take, for example, the women that are showing right now, it was cohort 2. It's a group of 19. You can see ages range from 21 all the way to obviously in her 60s, the older lady there. And all of them obviously focus on, first we start with entrepreneurship 101, all the way through how to pitch your business, creating that deck and getting it ready. So some people will actually say, okay, I want to obviously look for investors, or maybe not, but at least all of what it takes to grow your business and take it to the next level.
That's wonderful. Looking at these young eyes here, these are mostly young ladies, young women. What are they looking for into their future? Because they're looking at us. But I've always wondered, when you look into the eyes, what are they actually seeing as far as their future?
Actually going into the Gambia, most of the women that I had been in contact with, they just wanted to be heard. They just wanted to be seen and heard and actually appreciated and valued. And so if you, some of these women that I go in, all of them are pretty very young actually, and they're all entrepreneurs. And I tell them that at my age, I don't think, at their age, I don't think I was that creative or innovative. I was thinking, how can I progress in my career, and not thinking, how can I build my own table and the seats around it. And so, you have all these women that, for example, the lady in the pink shirt, she has her own cupcake shop and she's a law student as well. So this is a way for her to help her community as well, her parents and etc. is to create a side gig, which, in the US, I call it a side hustle, for you to be able to, kind of help at home. And so, so on and so forth. You have others that are designers, you have others that are, in the technology field. But the main thing, and I think for us going in as an African woman for African women, was that they found me as somebody they can trust and value, and not only speak business, but we could speak about any other thing. So we ended up creating friendships that are going to be forever.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. And looking at it again is just, you really put yourself into the middle of everything that you're doing. It. Why is it so important that you be there and be among these various aged females, so to enhance the future of the Gambia, but also enhance the future of the African continent?
So for me, it's, a lot of people actually wait until their 60s or 70s to leave a legacy, or, have that time for them to pivot and say, okay, I'm going to do this. For me, I don't know. I don't know if I want to call it lucky, but I just found that my passion very earlier on is just to help women and girls. And it's a huge sacrifice because, I left my six-figure income job in the United States. And I said, you know what, I'm going to empty my 401k and I'm going to come in and I'm going to build this for women and girls. And I
Fantastic.
sacrifice my time flying back and forth, but I make sure that I'm there. It's not anyone else. Like, I can't start a cohort without myself being there. Everything that's being done right now in the Woman Boss, I make sure I stand and present.
That's
I could
absolutely
easily
fantastic.
hire, which I do have staff, but I just wanted to make sure that I'm there.
Yeah, and I think that's important, and also too is they need to see women like you, that's like them, and I think that's very
Absolutely.
important. And we forget about that, how we need to be able to see ourselves and others around us. We have about a minute left, and so
Sure.
what is happening in this dynamic? And again, we have less than a minute. So what do we
Sure.
see in the dynamic we're looking at, and what do we see in the dynamic for the future of your organizations? And be quick, please.
Sure. So quickly, this picture actually just shows that this was in March and during International Women's Day. And this was the Girls in Leadership series that we held in our space. And we have some of the speakers and some of the women that actually attended. We spoke about different things that were happening in our community, what's important. And the thing is that this happened when COVID-19 it's just, we were closing the borders and I had to literally fly out the next day, the following day. So that was it. And then the future for the organization, for the Woman Boss, I'm just hoping that it grows further and further and further. I don't oversee this ending. I want this legacy to continue beyond me. I am definitely training women and staff as well to make sure that this is something that they can go on, and also, to replicate this as
Okay,
programs
thank
around the
you very
world.
much. This is
Thank
Awamary
you.
Khan, the founder of Innovate Gambia, the Woman Boss. Thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet.
Thank you so much.